Ladies and germs and gentlemen, all 8 million of you around the world and around the globe, you would not believe the kind of troubleshooting and hoops that we have had to try to jump to get this recording going. From 3 a.m. last night, our plan was to start at 9, now 10:30 p.m. Tucker and I made yet another raised bed, ended up having another long day. And Xbox Live parties aren't working, so Tucker is on the mic that we use for Affordable Space Adventure. Tucker, go ahead and give him the old hellos.
Hellos, everybody's. Don't forget that goblins have nipples.
If there is some strange audio, you know why? There is a very good chance it might even be better audio. I don't know. At least we don't have any technical hurdles with this. Now, Tucker and I are now on the same audio channel, though, so there might be some weird stuff there. I'm not on headsets. We tested the audio. I don't believe there's an echo. We are going to finish this fight. The first thing we're going to do is, yeah, I'll admit it, we're cowards. Guess what's happening to chaos level? Don't spin the wheel, Tucker. You'll waste your thing. Off. We're finishing this tonight. And that's what it's going to look like, is this. We want to start struggling. Tucker's got summer break almost over. I did get a new shotgun. I'm sure that our damage is fine. But ultimately, at this point, our goal is just to finish this out. And, there's no reason to be hard-headed. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We're going to start by beating DLC 2. Nearly defeated last night. I'll admit, it won't be as exciting. It was pretty cool last night to be on Chaos level 50 and getting by on the skin of our teeth. But let's admit something. Let's admit it right now. Admit it clearly. It's something that Tucker and I talked about late last night when we finally quit. Tucker will tell you what we did after we quit recording for the night. We said, you know what? Those bosses were dropping purples and blues. Greens. Why would you farm them? Why would you do the 15-20 minute run to go farm that boss and have to go through, especially this boss I completely dislike, and I think Tucker was with me. I think we both strongly dislike this boss and its mechanics. It's giant AoE novas that kill you in one hit all across the map are just stupid. Not fun. But you collect souls, and then you go spin the wheel, and the wheel will give you 3 or 4 legendaries, and it's easy to farm. You just stand there. So really, you just need to farm souls. And there's a couple places in the PLCs where you can just go get those souls. PLC 2 has got the crab place. You could just keep running around killing pirates, and then PLC 3, you could sit there and keep killing the bloom thing. So, Mimic, that means that actually running these PLCs, not only are they bad, I'm sorry, I didn't want to, like, PLC 1 I didn't like, and I again made a video on it. I wanted to really like PLC 2. I think that as much as I like the rooms a lot, I actually think they've got some really good design. PLC 3's even better with that. This boss is so awful that this one's worse than the shark one to me. Now, PLC 3, I think Tucker and I have basically agreed that it's the best. But the problem remains that you're really just overall better off farming out souls, not running these PLCs ever again, which is why we've put Chaos completely off now, and finding a good soul farm and then putting your Chaos level up to 50 and running that way. Anything less than that is just a waste of time. Last point on this. At Chaos level 50, I think Ascended should be 5%. I think Chaotix should be the baseline, and I don't think white and green should be in the loophole anymore. And that alone would be a significant increase to the rate.
Then most people would be happy.
What'd you say, Tucker?
Most people would be happy then, too.
I'd be happy, that's for sure. So, Tucker, now that that's off our plate, why don't you tell the people at home what movie we watched last night?
We watched Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies. Probably one of the worst movies both of us have ever watched.
For me, it was the worst movie I watched. I've watched plenty of bad movies, and Tucker's even made us watch those shit Asylum movies. Bad movies for some reason. Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies is truly an awful.
Don't know how it got 3 stars.
Jump cuts. Use a story that's already almost non-existent and further take it into a muddled mess. The most continuity errors I think that have ever been in any film. And I didn't really know who Rowdy Pied Piper was. Then Tucker mentioned, yeah, he's been in other movies, and then They Live. And it's like, oh my God, this is the They Live guy, and he does such a great job in that movie. And that's one of my top 10 favorite movies ever. The stream has a lot of references to They Live. That's Rowdy Piper. Like, oh my God, the guy's he was a living legend. He totally should have been in even more flicks. He did such a good job in that movie, and then from there he just gets like bit roles and stuff. And then that's the last movie he was in, is Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies, which is just such a bad movie. Describe some of the especially bad parts of it. What do you think is probably the worst part of it?
Most parts of the movie was probably around the beginning where franchise took his like nephew, I think.
Oh yeah.
And he went outside, and I told him, "Okay, bud, I need you to hold down the fort." As soon as he said he was gonna take him.
Right, he's like, "You're with me for the day, bud," and they all are like, "Oh, have a fun day." And then he tells us, like, there was either time passed and they did spend the day together, or for no reason at all, inexplicably, he decides his nephew is not going to spend the day with him. And actually, the nephew always wants to spend the day with him, but never lets him. And soon he will once he gets paid or something. And within the time that this happens, whether he spent the day with him or whether he was denied the day with him, even though they were going to spend the day together, that's what he really wanted to do, somehow zombies from way across town have gotten into the house and ate the franchise's family alive. And all of these zombies are voodoo zombies. I'm talking the old school Carnival of Lost Souls style of zombies. The plot is that the franchise kills a wrestler named Billy, who got his girl in the back room at some like indie wrestling show. And so the franchise does what was the movie did?
What is it?
What was the wrestling move that the franchise did? Okay, so he did a tombstone and like he kills Billy.
That's more like it.
Billy dies. So Billy's brother wears vengeance on him. Kind of.
I guess.
Because the next scene, by the way, if you're watching this, it's hard to even figure this out because like some 80-year-old woman with dyed hair and stethoscope
Is always trying to be flirty, even if she does the slightest thing wrong.
The stethoscope. I'm talking about the doctor lady in the beginning. She's a doctor because she has a stethoscope and she has a white jacket on. So
You know she's a doctor because she always got the white coat on.
So even though he's breathing, they always did this really weird white cotton thing. Had to show people like fiddle. Okay, he dies. But the next scene is this guy, and you don't really know that it's his brother, but he's got a Scottish accent. He's actually talking to the writer-director, Cody. Cody what? What was his last name?
Rhodes?
Rhodes. Cody Rhodes. Writer-director for Wrestlers versus Zombies.
Slap that thing on the top like he was proud of it.
Proud of it, baby. Let's go. And he's getting him to like, he's trying to organize a wrestling venue at a prison, and he gives Cody like $150, like not even enough money to buy an Xbox Series X.
And he says, how about I throw in Kurt Angle, Roddy Piper. Well, I can even give you the sisters too.
Right. So like, rather than like Tucker was saying, being a businessman and being like, well, if you want Kurt Angle and you want Rowdy Pied Piper, you're gonna have to, it's gonna take some more money than this. He's like, this kind of money, I can get you even more wrestlers. I'll get you every wrestler you ever wanted. And he agrees, but he wants the franchise and the franchise's girlfriend to show up in particular. So now we enter some very bizarre marketing girl. Gets
like
basically
somewhat slept with 3 men.
She gets like sexually assaulted by the writer director, like Harvey Weinstein style, but she's like all into it. She's like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do the marketing for this venue. And then we cut. And the cut is that this woman comes out of a hospital and her mirror breaks and it causes dark magic effect. Even though at this point there's nothing in the occult occurring. And Scottish guy abducts her. And he takes her down into this like smut film style basement. Gropes a feel for no reason at all and sticks a Kandarian dagger in her heart. This instantly makes her into a piss-colored zombie. Which, by the way, all of the zombie special effects include two things. A massive laceration on the left middle forehead and the color of deep jaundice piss color skin. Usually the makeup is not done below the collarbone. So she becomes a zombie.
That's pretty much why all of the wrestlers.
All the wrestlers wear long okay, so rather than Billy being like, yes, you've done, avenge me, brother, a demon shows up named Think Jaguar, even though they never fully
Yeah, they never say what his name actually. It's really confusing.
He has a role in this, or why he has a role in this, is equally confusing.
It never even said what he had a role in. Like, did he have a role in causing the people to...
So what we learned is this movie was shot in less than 2 weeks. The sound engineer for the movie got sick, so they had to mix it themselves. So we cut now to the franchise going into Cody's office again, which is like the janitor's closet in high school.
And he's just exaggerating about if there's doesn't get paid if he as soon as he steps on the bus he's leaving. As soon as he steps on the bus and there's no money, he stays.
But also the audio engineering thing. Describe the mix at this point, the footsteps and sounds, and what occurs.
When that marketing lady first walks into the room, goes like, "Here to see you," as she's saying that, except that
Clomp, clomp, yeah.
That the footsteps are just as loud as her talking.
Footsteps are louder than her talking. Cody's mouth moves and the words come out later, and they're very soft. So like, it's a movie in English, shot in West Virginia, with all people who speak English.
Yet they had to
Scottish
dub
English.
it for some reason.
Right, then they dubbed it. And the dub is like it's a foreign film. It's really weird. And of course it's funny, fun, action. And every time you watch it or look at it, like, we watched the guy review it and he told the truth. You notice more and more problems with it. Okay, so
notice how many times Roddy Piper changed his shirt?
Oh yeah, that was great. But we'll get to that. So the franchise says, oh, it was Vince McMahon first, and now it's this Extreme Wrestling League. And you guys are screwing me, and if I don't get my money, we cut then to on the bus. Cody's gone. I don't believe he plays a role ever again in the movie.
Yep.
Ostensibly, the franchise has been paid, even though that's never existed. The marketing lady's there.
For some reason, he's supposed to be there.
Yeah, she's for some reason on the bus, and Rowdy Pied Piper is on the bus, signing autographs and also choosing to get on the bus for reasons unknown. Marketing girl and Rowdy know one another. Somehow, some way. The franchise decides to get back together with the girl who was sleeping with Billy, the man who killed. And pretty much it's like an orgy on the bus. It's really quite...
Half the people on the bus were kids.
It's really uncomfortable, to be honest. And didn't they have like another big wrestler, like the Stage, Shane Dawson or something?
Yeah.
That the big guy who was like... Okay, so they all get to this prison. And then Jaguar starts to give a speech. Really bad dub. And he's like, yo, you're going to have your chance. This time, the outcome isn't scripted. Oh, really? And if you survive, you're going to be legends, live forever or something. In the background, what has occurred with our zombie friend is Tucker. Get us up to date on our zombie.
So they've just been running and there's this one scene in particular that's just horrible. It's where these three people just randomly walk into a house because the door was open. We don't even know if they live there or not. They just walk in.
The indie wrestlers come to Scottish guy's house, I guess, or somebody's house. So the indie wrestlers from the beginning of the
I'm gonna find this lady, and they just stand there while one of them gets mauled. And finally, somebody pushes them off.
They find patient Zero, and she's just standing in a corner, and she instantly overwhelms two full-grown men who are professional athletes.
And then, the third guy tries running away. Chooses not to go through the door that's right next to him. He chooses to run right into the window to get out.
Goes into the window, and then he gets knocked down the hill because the Scottish guy shows up. Now all of his buddies are now zombies. We beat number 4. Hooray. Wow, we actually got more gear on non-chaos mode. At least there was a legendary that dropped.
Heck is this?
Remember not to spin the wheel, Tucker. This level. We're 16 minutes in. We're just gonna keep recording. We should be able to bust these out pretty quick since we're not on chaos. So he's infecting like indie wrestlers and gets in this fight. And the last indie wrestler who's doing moves,
he somehow learned how to wrestle. Like he instantly got like this absurd strength, able to pick up patient Zero, and
he decides to do a Anakin Skywalker thing and like run straight up a hill. And then there's one of what is many series of jump cuts that have to piece together whatever the hell happened, and often you sense and doesn't fit in the plot.
Like it cuts just as he's about to get.
It cuts right as he's running up the hill, and then he's in the air, and then just being ate.
Really confused.
The best thing the movie does is some of the zombie cuts are like when it shows the zombies eating. When it's above the body, it's awful, but when they like zoom in and show them like biting into the flesh and stuff, I didn't think those cuts were bad. Anyway, our Scottish guy, our villain, has now built an undead army, and he for some reason is gotten to the prison with no one noticing him.
With a whole horde of zombies following behind.
With a whole horde of zombies. Enter Kurt Angle. Olympic
Kurt Angle
gold
gets like a
medalist.
full 3 minutes of run.
Yeah, it was exactly 3 minutes, right? He timed it out.
Yeah.
So you have one of the great actual wrestlers of all time. He gets to do a couple moves. He's infected. He goes up onto the ring, and you see him fall to his knees, and then he's just gone.
Yep, just disappears.
You can't actually say that he was killed. Like you figure, okay, I guess he was killed, but they actually never show him killed, and his makeup was like flailing off the whole time.
Yeah.
So that was Kurt Angle. Hooray. He got to wrestling slam a couple zombies. At this point, the zombies, everyone's in this wrestling. Oh, there's an important thing that happens before that.
Yeah, as soon as Kurt Angle gets overpowered by a horde of zombies, it just cuts to all of them in the ring fighting. Like, they don't even, like, get all surprised by it.
There's another important thing, and that is marketing lady who has a relationship with Rowdy, but doesn't have a relationship with Rowdy, who probably slept with the producer, Cody, in order to be the marketing girl. No one's confused by the wrestling ring that's been set up in the middle of the arena. The fact that the band's not there, and there's no one there, and who set all this up? Why is this here? And she says, look, there's blood on the floor. And then the producer's assistant, who's like this Leisure Suit Larry, except in the year 2014, emaciated, handlebar mustache, black long wig, 90-pound soaking wet character with very high-pitched mouse voice. He comes over and he takes a big
Look at this.
damn jelly heaping scoop of the blood and puts it in his mouth like we do in COVID and AIDS and Fox.
to make sure it's not infected.
He's gonna check, and he says, "Oh, that's high fructose corn syrup." Then the marketing girl gives him the sexy, sassy eyes constantly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Her one pose throughout the film is huge squinting eye into sassy, sexy, a long eyelash pose. She says, "I'll make it up to you." They go into the storage closet, and the scene cuts. So she's now ostensibly slept with two different men in a sleazy way, and her plot, you will never guess her plot. But we are surrounded by the voodoo zombies in the wrestling ring. Kurt Angle is already gone. Tucker, take it from here.
So it's just like 5 minutes of a bunch of 3 wrestlers, just a group of ladies and one male wrestler, all having the same clip, the same line over and over and over again. Till eventually they kill Kurt Angle, go out of the ring for some reason, and they decide to break through all the zombies. All they have to do is just run at him.
Well, they get half the wrestlers, half the people in the team are just being ignored. There's like 4 wrestlers. I think it's Rowdy's in there, and Franchise is in there, and Shane Dawson's in there, and they're like, and the one who was the guy who was really good at hitting the top ring with a 2x4.
What is it?
Who was the wrestler that the one guy who reviewed it said that he's really good at hitting the top ring with a 2x4?
Oh, I think that was Matt Hardy. It was that big guy with the 2x4.
Okay, Matt Hardy. Now we have to also cut back to an important scene on the bus. Rowdy tells the marketing girl. Marketing girl's like, "Why do you like the franchise?" Rowdy's like, "He's got a good heart. He's noble. He takes things. He would never go against his personal valor. He's a good man of heart, right? He would never betray his personal commitments.
He would never leave his friends behind."
Yeah. So he says he's got integrity, right? So these guys, the big wrestlers, are all in the ring, and Matt Hardy's banging on the top rope with a 2x4, and you got all these urine-colored zombies, and then they make a break for it, and they run over to the other side of the high school gymnasium, even though it's supposed to be an abandoned prison, and for some reason the zombies have left this group totally alone, even though they're not 10 feet away from them. And they all get together and they put their hands in the middle and they whisper something that doesn't get dubbed quite properly. Now back in the middle of the ring, without explanation, and they decide they're going to football charge, tackle their way through. High flyer of the team decides to go back to the middle of the ring for no particular reason. 3 backflips and a wall run. And stage. We are now at the barricade scene. Tucker, take us from.
So when the barricade scene, everybody somehow managed to cram everybody into this one room with all the zombies on the outside. And then they discover 2 people under the table. It's just a super cringy joke.
Oh yeah, so Shane Dawson is having intimate relations with his girl, fully clothed and just sort of dry humping. Or Rowdy's like, "Yo, this isn't the time or the place for this. You're gonna die. She's gonna die too." And then he repeats that like 5 times. And Shane Dawson's like, "Don't be intimidated, Rowdy." That's the extent of that whole communication.
And next, just get this that one guy up with.
The Leisure Suit Larry, call him.
With him, starts complaining about something I can't even remember because his voice was just so low.
Yeah, you can hardly hear him. It really is like a...
And they just, for some reason, decide to pick him up and push him up against the door.
Yeah, Matt Hardy picks him up and they throw him into the door and they make him into a barricade and he just accepts it.
Yeah, they
I've
just
always
hold him
wanted
there
to
for
be
a good
aboard.
like 3 minutes.
He doesn't squirm. He doesn't complain. He
Just lets it
completely
happen.
accepts the role-playing. So he has rules to follow. My role is the board, and I'm gonna be a character. Okay, now even though they've got this barricade of of your classic abandoned prison supplies of school desks, chairs, and Leisure Suit Larry, they decide to all break off and go to the lockers.
And leave this one guy behind.
They leave one guy behind who's in like speedo, and he's supposed to be the idiot of the group, but he also only talks in
Video games.
He talks in video games, but it's like boomer speak for video games, like game over, reboot, fatality. Like it's not actually gamer speak. It's trying to be hello fellow cool kids gamer speak. So it uses the most generic out of place line possible. Like isn't that gamer inhaler, engine, life? He's at the door all by himself. And he's like, it's okay, guys. I got this. And then the zombies immediately start rushing through. And then he says, I need help. And everyone's like, what? You got this? What do they do?
They just decide to go through the hole anyways.
Oh, yeah. They all just decide to start leaving. And then he yells. First, he had killed a zombie going into the barricade. Rips it in half. And I mean, the intestines that come out of it are fine, but then
goes game over, fatality.
Yeah,
and
that was
steps on the
bad.
organ.
And then it's like a pinata. Day that someone's. Okay, so he's dead, and he starts yelling reboot, 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 and he dies, and then him. Everybody now goes into a hole. Start to refresh my.
So apparently Matt Hardy gets left behind. That one dude who was.
Okay, yeah. So we have to jump back to Rowdy going like he never breaks his personal promises. The man of his word. We're like a family about the franchise, and they're getting chased by the zombies because Speedo Man has succumbed. So Matt Hardy runs into the franchise. And he's like, the franchise is like, brother, I'm sorry I dropped you on that tombstone. And Matt Hardy's like, it's all right, brother. It was an honor to wrestle and ring to warriors. And the franchise is like, if anything happens to me, tell my family. Matt Hardy's like, you tell my wife. You know Deborah. Tell my wife. And then the franchise decides to do what, Tucker?
For some reason, the franchise decides to lock the door on him, even though Matt Hardy had plenty of time to get in there.
Yeah, so this man who sticks to his word and he treats his friends like family and has just had this made amends with a fellow veteran wrestler decides to leave him for dead for no reason at all and abandon him to the zombie.
Then there's this weird scene where he's fighting him, then he starts to succumb, then he comes back for a couple seconds, and he succumbs.
Matt Hardy gets surrounded by the zombies and randomly bursts out and surrounded again, bursts out, and they just. So now we have the High Flyer, who franchise watches on the security camera run around like a Titanfall pilot for like 5 minutes. Let's.
Oh yeah. Remember that one dude on the table?
Oh,
So he's out on the roof, rolling on hell.
You're talking about Shane Dawson, right? Okay, no. Shane Dawson. So everybody's coming through this vent, and Shane Dawson's on his ankle, and he like can't even walk. And the next scene, he's literally sprinting around the. And this then becomes actually one of the, for a very brief period,
the best scene.
Well, like the best scene in the movie, because it actually is like pro wrestlers versus zombies. Tell them about that scene.
Probably the best. It was good until they stretched it on. But
what makes it good?
It's just all sorts. Starts using a tray to bait some zombies in. Keeps on sliding. It picks one table.
Yeah, so they actually do some okay special effects. He has a ladder and he starts banging zombies. And then he gets a chair and he starts banging zombies. throws one in a filing cabinet, and the head busts open.
But then eventually he gets to the stairs, and there's a big zombie on the top of the stairs. All those other zombies who got their the
Right.
stairs.
Every zombie that he killed is somehow back now, and
Then
he's surrounded. Like Tucker said, there's 2 giant zombies on the top of the stairs. There's all the zombies he just killed at the base of the stairs, and
so you think that he's done for, but then for some they like no, and then able to.
he doesn't even do that. It just cuts. It cuts. It cuts, and he's fine. The staircase is empty.
Yeah.
There's no fade to black, just like the franchise scene when he's like walking with his nephew. There's no explanation. He just no longer is surrounded by zombies, and he's now climbing along the top of the prison,
Trying to get away from a single zombie.
Yes, the same guy who's covered in bandages and actually ended up in the hospital because of this. But he successfully fights that one off, and you think, wow, he's made it. And this was like the briefest moment where this movie was okay, because the ladder and the fight, and there was that awful jump cut, and all the zombies he killed came back like 4 or 5 times. Clearly the only people they had on the set that day.
But then it got completely messed up when
And you
in the
thi-
next scene you find him split in half.
Yeah, so you think he's escaped, even though there's been some really awful continuity here. And he comes around a corner, and they're trying to bring him into the door, and he's half a person. God. His legs are taken off. He instantly turns, even though he's got no makeup. He sort of dry nuzzles his girlfriend, who does, in a movie full of bad acting, just atrociously high school film project level acting.
And when
She gets up and she says, "I need your brains." This is where marketing lady, out of nowhere, with this, we forgot to tell you what's happened to marketing. It hasn't happened out of nowhere. When they were all in the barricade, what did we learn about marketing?
there
Tucker?
she's by the locker room, grabbed a machete, and said, "Guys better get serious." Guys goes, "Who are you supposed to be?" And she's
I'm not getting you on the mic. Make sure you're talking into it. I'm the lady who's supposed to get you
get you out of
this.
this heck. And then she somehow learns Taekwondo because he's able to like somewhat throw him on the ground, even though you can clearly tell that the franchise let her do that.
Right. They cue like really, really bad music, which they do throughout this, that somehow perfectly describes exactly what's happening. Even though it's totally unnecessary. Badass, she's on the fly, she's quick and mean, she's super sly. And marketing lady who slept with 2 sleazeballs is now a ninja warrior. She takes a machete to franchise his throat. So in the scene where Sean Dawson or whatever has become a zombie and infected his girlfriend, she is also responsible for a slow motion supercut of apparently cutting her head off. We don't
Yeah,
know.
because she's like half through this.
And it jump cuts again. Jump cuts, and I believe we're now down to marketing lady, the franchise who's just running around doing nothing. Rowdy Pied Piper, who is supposed to be our star, and I think Flyer finally gets like surrounded.
Gets killed on cameras. And the franchise is watching as he splits off from the group.
Right. So what happens now that we're down to
So then you get your scene with crap, I forgot his name.
the franchise first reaches the Scottish guy, right?
Yeah, the Scottish guy. Then the Scottish guy is like, "You killed my brother. You need to admit it, or else I'm gonna kill you. Kill you anyway."
Yeah. And then he's like, "Bring it on. I'm a warrior."
And then he
Never
just
beat
starts
me."
running away.
Yeah, and then he just runs for his life.
And then you can tell it's like sped up by 2 times because you can tell that no human should be able to flail his legs that fast and touch him.
He jogs out of there like a 45-year-old man who's pro wrestled for 30 years. So they move it at like 5 times speed. So he's exited stage left again. And we go to Rowdy, and we go to marketing lady, aka I'll sleep with anybody if it's money, and also a ninja. They watch for an awkwardly long time.
Need help.
Another shoot the bullets. Shoot Bullet Bill. Another totally unnecessary human sacrifice. Scottish guys apparently. Somehow getting people into the high school gymnasium, still like stabbing them with the Kandarian dagger. I don't know if he makes zombies strictly through the Kandarian dagger or through bites. Up to this point, it was bites. But that's what they witness. They are horrified by it. Now we have yet another jump cut. And after this scene, everyone is now outside.
Yep. It just cut to everybody being outside.
Everyone somehow escaped the prison. And the franchise and Rowdy and Marketing Lady.
Wait, no, it's just Roddy. And then eventually the franchise just comes running up there like 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Franchise
So,
lady. Right.
Rowdy and Marketing Lady fight the undead hordes. They get up on top of this hill, and then all these zombies follow the well-marked trails and trail lines. They lawfully walk up to their doom. They kill many, many zombies, many of them multiple times over. Some of them zombies that had already been killed earlier in the 2 or 3 times, all urine covered, one and all. And they survive this, and then Scottish guy says, more power. And all of these
And you get a view
badly
like that demon
dressed
guy.
Civil War people come up out of the ground, and that is the one and only time we see them. Now Tucker introduced the franchise.
So it just cuts to the franchise up the same tunnel at like 5 speed.
Past all the zombies that have been charging up the hill.
Then he just reaches up to Roddy and
He just reaches Rowdy. He has no issues getting there. There's no explanation as to how they got up there, what exactly has occurred up to this point, and Rowdy now has to go through his own personal hell.
so apparently says this is the problem. Yeah, he spends like the last 10 minutes getting beaten up by a single zombie.
Well, the franchise. Remember, the franchise has to.
Oh yeah.
Somehow the people who were eaten down to the bones are now back. Rowdy's, you know, the people that you don't actually care about, but I guess you're supposed to. The franchise's mother, the nephew who time warped, I think his brother, maybe.
To break a chain. I promise I'd keep it light.
Just, what kind of puts him in a half chokehold, and that seems to do the old job.
The same wonderful thing that'll cut Theodore down for good. Knock, knock, Theodore.
I'm assuming you were listening to that, Tucker.
Sorry, I was just
Yeah, okay, what'd you learn about?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
I was just watching the anime.
So the Scottish guy who said, you know, hey, I'm going to avenge my brother Billy, and the franchise who's basically apologetic about it. Then Billy forces the franchise to kill his own family, who we don't care about. And then the Scottish guy ties the franchise up. The zombies. I'm just left with Rowdy and Marketing Lead. Take it from
And fights. Even though she was getting mauled in the last. But then she gets bitten one time by a zombie.
gets bit, but that same zombie she bites, she
Picks up and slams.
puts her into a tombstone. And Rowdy, who's been knocked out by one very frail zombie, is laying on the ground and starts to come to and witnesses this tombstone and has a vision of the demon
Getting
and says, it's hurting them. It's hurting them. And whether he was having the vision, how he got this information, whether the demon's being released, just easier if you don't ask questions. Points don't matter. Nobody wins. Anyway, the girl is now laying on the ground. Rowdy gets up, and where you have Thor, where you have the Avengers versus who's Thanos. Epic end of the movie fights that settled the fate of the universe, good versus evil. All here we are. It's Rowdy versus the Scotsman.
And then it just is completely one. Rowdy Piper spends like a good 5 minutes just pounding that baseball bat.
Yeah, the Scotsman doesn't even land a hit. Rowdy just beats him in with his crowbar, kills him, and that's it. That's the movie. He starts making out with the marketing lady in front of the American flag, while he does like very odd smiles into the sunset that look a lot like those English translation videos if you ever took Spanish or French in high school, like the really bad acting that they now put the music behind. And he's making faces and expressions like that, and so is she. And roll credits. That's Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies.
Best movie of all time. 3 stars.
Out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really bad. Not funny bad either. Most
It was just
of the movie
so bad it was sad.
Yeah, it even made me angry, but mostly it was like, how did this get made, and why would you put it out? It wasn't like the Asylum movies that are intentionally bad and there's kind of funny parts and you can sort of pick on it as you go. But even though I can barely, or movies that didn't want to be bad, they went out to make a good movie. Of course, they're awful. The good bad movies, which are pretty rare, like an art to that. You can't try to make one of them. Or like Sharknado. This is just bad. It's not good bad. It's not funny bad. It's not ridiculous bad. It's just truly bad. Like rotten eggs. Like milk that's turned. There's just nothing redeeming about it.
You think it's one thing and then it turns into a whole nother.
The plot doesn't have any structure to it whatsoever.
If there even is a plot.
The story in its telling tends to jump, become muddled, convoluted, and at most junctures just give up the ghost altogether. Like the franchise with the nephew, or marketing girl sleeping with multiple people, or the death of Kurt Angle. Just insert whatever character, whatever arc was begun anywhere you like, and I can almost guarantee you that it ends fuzzy, bizarre. You gotta guess, figure it out for yourself. Might not even. Okay. It's. Do you agree, Tucker, with the one reviewer saying, like, I give Cody credit because they only had 2 weeks and it's amazing they even pulled anything together? Or do you? That's really.
It's just so bad.
It was really bad. Normally, like when Tucker and I watched Predator, Alien, or Predator, whatever, terrible movie. We
Predator
laughed.
versus. It was just Alien.
Oh, Alien Predator, right? You sure? I think it's Alien Predator because it was trying to play on both movies.
Yeah.
If you can melt the chains holding up that hook, it's done for.
Or we can't even find it. We were making fun of it because they just kept doing the fog machine, and to that movie's credit, even though it deserves so very little credit, it did actually have a set plot, which is that there's an alien ship that has landed at this remote facility in South America, I guess.
It isn't like world breaking about how good the plot is. Just it has a plot.
It has a plot, and it does actually follow the structure from there. And a special forces group gets killed outside of the ship, and they're trying to keep it secret. And a team of soldiers at the base isn't supposed to go in to try to save those guys, but they choose to go in. A lot of really stuff happens. A lot of unnecessary walking but it's clearly a back lot somewhere outside of Los Angeles. Blah, blah, blah. Still, they're moving to one set point. It's the ship. There aren't too many jump cuts that are just huddling. Get to that ship, and what do you know? There's people in paintball armor walking around, making sounds like speak through a xylophone. And they somehow, even though the SEAL Team 6 was killed by these same paintball armor, xylophone-speaking aliens, managed to kill the whole lot of them. It's not even on the visual spectrum. The engineer heard says who speaks says code. My GUI is in C# GUI decimal system. Echo Tango Charlie Foxtrot.
Now, they just have so many unnecessary callouts as well.
Fog machine, low lights, sparklers, but still, one alien ship, one rescue operation, the decision to go into the ship, the decision to try to escape and kill the aliens in the process, end of movie. There is a plot there, and you can put it together. There isn't a subplot, there isn't a good plot. But Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies starts with the idea of a plot. It's a story of revenge, and ends with Rowdy and Marketing Lady making out in front of the American flag, Scotsman death with a crowbar. Oh.
It just hops all over the place. Doesn't even finish any plot points or character arcs.
No, it doesn't even try to. And you know, I was like, Tucker's really into pro wrestling right now, and I'm not into it, but he's been showing me some from it, and it hurts, so I've like come to appreciate it. I've always known that it takes a lot of athleticism for wrestling, crazy stuff. But that being said, I wanted to watch it from him, and then once I learned Rowdy was like, they live. I'm here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum. And what an amazing film that is, and what a good job he does. Oh my God. I barely slept last night. Why would you do that movie, man? Maybe that Cody ate him well. Maybe that Cody is just like a massive wrestling fan. It's like make a wish. He's dying a character, and they're like, I'll do it for Cody. I'll make this dying boy.
I'll do it for Cody.
This dying boy happy. And
I need to make a movie about wrestlers fighting zombies.
The movie has a Wikipedia page. Like, Kurt Angle enjoyed doing the movie. He was happy that all the extras were indie wrestlers, so he felt safe doing wrestling movies. Love to do another movie like this. Kurt Angle? Weren't you one of the biggest WWE stars at one time?
He was a pretty big one.
And you're legitimately an Olympic gold medalist? Why? Why?
There were so many better opportunities he could have taken. Why this movie?
Why this movie? You're Kurt Angle. Like, you could... I don't know what his acting, but I know pro wrestlers are considered professional actors, members of the Screen Actors Guild. They have to
sell moves.
Yeah, they tend to be pretty good actors. Rowdy was great, and they live. So, is Kurt Angle that bad? And all these wrestlers, Batista and The Rock, they've all gone on to have big time film careers.
Yeah.
So, why Kurt Angle? Why?
Why?
Yeah, as an actor too, you would think they'd be like, do we explain how I died? Do we show me die? Cover that up? Or I just... No,
you just disappear.
Yeah,
oh,
you
okay,
just
I see.
But like, why didn't the franchise act like... Did the kid come with me to the gymnasium, or did I choose not to? And it's just like a thing.
It's like the
Yeah, well, normally actors... Sorry. We'll bring that up with the director. Like, the famous one is where Ben Affleck mention to Michael Bay, movie Armageddon, why wouldn't you just train? That's about a bunch of roughnecks in the oil patch going up, drilling a massive asteroid in half before it hits. Hasn't aged well. I suggest you watch Deep Impact, which is a much better film about the same scene. But Armageddon was a huge blockbuster film. Hollywood coincidences of the same idea. Point being, Ben Affleck says to Michael Bay, hey, wouldn't it just be easier to have astronauts who are already trained on the massive amount of technical expertise necessary to fly a rocket ship into space? You want to be an astronaut, you have to both be a jet fighter pilot in the Air Force and have a PhD, something like, usually it's engineering or aeronautical engineering, and also, again, fighter pilots. So, like, all the Apollo astronauts were all WW2 vets who had done some of the most dangerous missions, done test flights with Air Force weapons. The other side of it. So Ben Affleck's like, yo, wouldn't it just be easier to train astronauts to drill oil wells and instead of having oil guys get trained to be astronauts? And Michael Bay was just like, shut up.
You don't know anything.
You don't know anything. But actors ask questions, and Ben Affleck's won an Academy Award, I'm pretty sure, for best script on all that movie about the Good Will Hunting.
I heard of it.
Pretty good. Him and Matt Damon, I wrote this one. Point being, actors who know their stuff will ask questions to the director and the screenwriter. Hey, let's all work together to make a better movie. That's okay. 'Cause as a writer, you want to be better, and as an actor, it's perfectly okay for the director to get, or etc. So why did no one, not one of these people who are talented, say we've got to tighten this up just a bit? Like, we know we're making a really bad movie, but it still needs to be not just a collection of things that happen.
What do you mean? What do you mean we have to make it good?
You don't even need to make it good. It just needs to make some sense. They didn't even do it. Yeah, I can't see doing it. Yeah.
Just an absurd amount of food.
Fun and fun. Crazy that this boss is. There's too many immunity phases, too many mechanics. Tell you what, I wouldn't mind that if they would tone down the one-hitting AoE super. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen and the lady, 8 million of you around the world and around. Not only heard the synopsis, Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies, but we're officially caught up on the PLCs. So they released the 4th one. All 3 PLCs at all qualities. We're at Chaos level 50.
For most.
And I will be releasing, when you guys hear this, it'll probably already be out, a edited video talking about Chaos level 50 and these up to this point. Spoiler alert. Yeah, my initial opinion of the PLCs pretty well remain. That is good. But before we end this, I want to hear Tucker's thoughts. Tucker, you're now the consumer. You've spent $30 on these PLCs. Give me your thoughts. I didn't get you on the mic. We still didn't get you on the mic.
I don't think I got my money's worth.
Tucker does not feel like you got your money's worth. Okay, how come?
There's like nothing there. There's barely any enemies in the map. Get thrown around trying to do objectives. And when you finally get to the boss has so many phases and immunity phases. That's just ridiculous.
Tell me more about why PLC boss number 2 is just so bad.
AoE spam, changing elements every single 2 seconds, hard to hit, ridiculous amount of damage if she just touches you.
visual clutter.
Yep. And then when you do actually get to kill her, you actually get her down to a quarter health. She goes into her next phase. Even more annoying. Even though she comes down, she does a lot more damage.
And once you get to difficulty 3 and 4, her constant moving back and forth,
It's extremely annoying.
it's awful. And you get downed all the time, and they do give you some stuff to second wind off of. Nice.
But you constantly get knocked, so you're eventually going to get to a point where you're just going to like insta-death.
Yeah. But you're constantly dying, so therefore your second wind timer just evaporates down to nothing. You're fighting mechanics that are just basically, you have to, again, either someone who can melt her down to nothing. From the beginning of us coming back to Wonderlands and talking about and recording the whole thing in a nutshell, right? Melt the enemy, or
Enemy melts
or
you.
the enemy melts you. It's the whole game in a nutshell right now. The whole in-game loop has been free. So you need to be able to damage her so fast that you're not impacted by the giant AoE. By the way, this gun's actually
I'll be right back.
giant AoE spam. And there's no like survival build that's gonna be good
Tanky
there.
enough to survive that.
Right. Oh, check on Grandma while you're up. But with him going to the bathroom, that means I'll roll this one more time. We're gonna call it. We're caught up. Glad to have done it. Glad we found a way, because the Xbox Live Party wasn't working, and it was a long day. We built another raised bed today, and well, this might actually be, if that counts on the pixies. What's Grant? Oh, okay. All right. So, peace.